Back again. This is Connor with Conquest HP, and this video is about how people are totally misrepresenting the race debate that's going on in the wake of the George Floyd killing. Basically, anything you say online, and I'm sure that this will qualify, makes you a racist, especially if you're apparently anything other than black, but in particular white. White, and pretty much anything you say seems to be racist. So you may as well say what's true, right? I mean, if everything's gonna be racist, you may as well at least say the truth while you're spewing your racist hatred. So I constantly see these memes going around. There are a couple catchy videos going around. There's some cartoony, silly crap videos going around that people are sharing. I'm kind of ashamed of these people, to be honest. A lot of the people I went to university with, a lot of people that have master's degrees are sharing this crap, and they can't really see through the arguments at all. So I just want to delineate what a basic statistical argument needs to look like. People are sharing things that are saying there are differences in educational outcomes between blacks and whites in America, therefore racism. People are saying there are differences in incarceration rates between blacks and whites in America, therefore racism. You don't do this. You don't make any argument like that when you're comparing one group to another, because it's not an argument. When you just have one variable, when you have one variable and one outcome, like race and like education outcomes, for example, you can't really imply causation there. You can say maybe there's some weird correlation going on. Maybe it appears that there's some relationship between race and how many people are graduating high school, for example, but you can't say that one is causing the other. So what you really need to do when you're trying to figure out what's going on, when you actually want a clear picture of what's causing what, is you have to add more variables into it. Because anytime you compare groups as broad as white and black, like white and black, who graduates high school more often, that's just a silly argument, because you're essentially saying, look, these videos are going around and saying that that's all there is to this discussion. But you're essentially saying with that argument that there's no other variables between those blacks and those whites than just the fact that they're black and white. That guy's white, that guy's black. We don't care about anything else that's going on in their lives. It's just the color of their skin that's affecting whether or not they're graduating high school. The reality is that there are a lot of different factors in any issue like this. So the what I'm using right now, that education outcome, that high school graduation, for example, a prudent factor to add in would be something like how many single parent homes are you looking at and how many two parent homes are you looking at? Because there's a very strong correlation between, if you have two parents in the house, that the kid ends up graduating high school a lot more often. So if you looked at that, even if you added one more variable into that, even, it gives you a much clearer picture of what's going on. So you could end up saying whites with one parent in the house graduate high school less than blacks with two parents in the house, and so forth. It would give you a much clearer picture. And then from that point on, you could start to infer some causation, like, oh, this factor seems to be totally unrelated. Oh, this one does seem to be related. But when you start to get into that multivariate analysis, then you start to see that, oh, look, at the black community often has, and this is documented, this is not my opinion, there are more single parent households. And single parent households of any race tend to produce kids that don't graduate high school as often. Maybe that has something to do with those education outcomes. So there are all kinds of these disingenuous arguments floating around the internet right now, and they're disingenuous is a nice way to put it. They're dishonest. They're trying to make it look as though I'm not saying there's no racism. Obviously, there is still racism. But to say that racism is the cause of every problem in the modern world is childish. It's childish, and it's sloppy, lazy thinking. And even more importantly, it's just not going to lead to any positive outcomes. I mean, if you just take half or 60% of the population of the United States, you just say, you guys are just racist, and you've always been racist, and that's why we're not succeeding. What's your actionable point there? What are you going to do about that? How is that going to be fixed? Are you going to find, we're talking about high school dropping, like people dropping out of high school here. So what exactly we're going to find, right? What's the actionable point? But if you find things like maybe if we have more two-parent households than one-parent households, then we're going to have more kids graduating high school. And that's regardless of race. And that is very actionable. That's something that the Black community could look at. That's something that any community could look at and say, if I have kids and I want them to succeed in life, and I know that graduating high school is very important for succeeding in life, maybe I should think about sticking around. Maybe I should think about turning away a government check so that I can be there for my kids. And there's nothing to do with race with that argument. Like I said, that could be that could be the case that a single parent white family ends up producing poorer outcomes than a two-parent Black family. It's good. Like, race doesn't have to be the answer there. So when we have these other points involved, then we can start to look at actual solutions. And that's what we need to do. We need to do that even if we're getting called racist as we do it. Even if the discussion is moving away from reason, rationality, and logic and all those things, we need to keep talking about bringing it back to the things we can actually act on. Because defunding the police is a bizarre, ridiculous, idiotic idea. And anytime someone suggests that, as far as I'm concerned, it just suggests that they don't actually understand what the problem is here. The problem is not that the police are racist or discriminating against Blacks or anything like that. The problem is that the crime in the Black community is way, way too high. The violent crime in the Black community is way too high. And young Black men are dying at the hands of young Black men at a rate that should scare most of us. So that's a bigger problem to tackle. Anyways, let's keep this discussion on things we can actually act on. Let's keep it reasonable. Let's keep it logical. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Talk to you guys again soon.